Mr. Kasparas Jurgelionis, hedge fund, Iron Capital, associate managing partner, Tomas Orlickas, National Paying Agency under the Ministry of Government Deputy Director. Giedrius Bagušinskas, Lithuanian Food Exporter Association Director General, and Sigitas Dimaitis, Chamber of Agriculture Director. Thank you very much for coming, for joining the discussion. What about the future forecasts? Can you share them? How do you view the future? One sentence in the context of COVID-19. In the COVID-19 future forecasts, I think we see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think everything will be fine quite soon. Our life determines the future. The pandemic was unexpected, but we learned a lot. We are ready for the future, for a bright future. And Mr. Sigitas. Mr. Giedrius. Well, talking about agri-food sector, the revolutions are slower. And the revolution in our stomachs will be much slower. A question to all of you. What would be the way forward in trying to think about the future? What about would be disruptive technologies? For example, insect-based food. There are new ways how to produce food in the future. Well, we can view that from different sides. As an economist, it's obvious to me that whether there will be a need. If there is no need, they would not be as aggressive to technologies as they're not necessary. The main challenges were addressed, the change of the lack of resources, and so on and so forth. This industry, there is a need to make this industry much more efficient. In general sense, if we looked at the general trends and food and protein-based food, now the major investments are not directed on that, or some 25% are directed on the major sources. The majority is on the efficiency, making more efficient agriculture. There are lots of technologies. We should start looking at the physics and other technologies. We'll have to look into connectivity, talking about either vertical farms, local communication technologies, or some other decisions. The major technologies will basically depend on how the world is going to look like. Some continents will look in one way, others in another. The same question goes for Mr. Tomas. Lithuania should not be lagging behind from other EU member states. The sector of agriculture is experiencing digital transformation or revolution. And our neighbors also focusing on that. We need to try to embark on those things. We shouldn't reinvent the wheel. So these things help us to remain competitive, because at the moment, currently, this is not really helping us. Our science institutions should work together with policymakers, because if we leave this work for the farmers, the progress will be, but it will be much slower, much more fragmented. It's not going to be useful to anyone. So the generated innovations are not only on the Lithuanian level, will help us to move forward. Lithuania is too small, and it's influenced on the EU level. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask Mr. Sigitas. I will repeat this question. What road will be chosen to improve current technologies to create a breakthrough of disruptive technologies, for example, plant-based and food, gene engineering, which proves that there are new ways of creating food and farming? Mr. Sigitas. Hello, first of all. And unilaterally, this question cannot be answered straightforwardly. The new is the things that used to be old, but only improved. So these technologies should be improved, and the new technologies should be created. And people will choose the best option for them. But first of all, we have to evaluate the economic benefits that we will receive from that. As Ms. Rasa Melnikene said, management, short chains, smart farming, but knowledge transfer is also very important. This is also one of the tasks relating to digital technologies. And how we adapt them will depend on how we manage to acquire and internalize the knowledge. And what does agriculture start with? It starts with the soil, first of all. And if we have a good quality soil, we will have a good economic benefits. And soil preservation and soil quality, well, the technologies here have already been created, but precise agriculture, precise farming is a new thing entirely. And we have to be successful in implementing that. What road will be
chosen to improve either to improve new current technologies or to create disruptive technologies, for example, plant-based or insect-based foods, gene bioengineering. These areas demonstrate that there are new ways of creating food and farming. Can you hear me? Yes, perfectly. And now I would like to ask Giedrius if he hears me. Yes, this is a question to me. Okay. As I said, digital revolution is happening faster than food revolution because people are cautious what they put inside their mouth. And traditional industry will not disappear. The generation that will digitize the factories will also will have to deal with the traditional industry and the technology emergence. And in terms of new plant-based food, well, these are new trends, and these are old solutions, only improved. If we're talking about bean or pea proteins, we have been using them for ages. Now we are wanting to transfer them to desserts, but people will not eat that. So that's why the work is around technologies and how to turn plant-based proteins into something that can be used in the food industry. Next, if we talk about various insects, well, probably we are not going to be great innovators here, but these products have been used for many years, but the question is which families use them a lot? Probably very few, if at all. So are we going to eat that or taste that? We can taste anything, but what about eating them regularly? Insect proteins for Asians are everyday staple. But if those powders will be added to the food, they will see it as a regular thing. Equally to us, freeze-dried strawberries or blueberries are now very normal. So with insects, we have a possibility to create products for far away markets, or having in mind that Asian migration towards Europe is coming closer. There will be a certain market in Europe as well, but this is future for our startups. We probably will not be forced to turn to this innovative nutrition. The question is, will we be creators or users of this process? The process is happening in Europe, in the Netherlands, Germany, and France. We are just waiting. And technologically, I think we have to become also the creators if we want to be leaders. And the short chains will remain. And agriculture and real plants will be interesting to us, but they will be more and more expensive. Aluminium tools, several hundred years ago, they were more expensive than gold, but thanks to technologies, they became cheap. So some of the food will become cheap and very exotic. And now, so we will have a great choice, a variety of choice. Thank you very much. And now I would like to ask a question to all, namely where all the main investments will be directed in terms of private and public capital. Let us begin with Mr. Kasparas. Well, I will put aside public capital because I'm not a specialist in this area. And in terms of the private investment, let me start with our fund. We have made an investment into a company that provides a platform for farmers to manage their farms. And based on this, they create a product of artificial intelligence that will help, or in cases where farmers cannot hire, will replace an agronomist or agronomist knowledge, or they will become accessible to a wider variety of farmers. For example, and a simple solution by a German startup via text messages. In Africa, he created a network thanks to which simple farmers could just ask our agronomist or farmers, ask questions that are self-explanatory to our farmers. And this has turned into a multi-million business because this has sharing those messages has affected the productivity. So I believe that when we have a lot of data, this will become everyday tool. Other things that we're looking at are, for example, technologies of spectrometry that have been existing for a while now, but have been quite expensive. Now they have become cheaper. And they enable technology development, for example, sensors and other tools that will enable the provision of unbiased data. So we are mostly focusing on Baltic countries and Northern European countries, and what we think is important there. But globally, there are probably several areas where investments are being directed to, namely resource efficiency, as I said, various autonomous solutions, vertical farms, etc. Of course, animal and plant health is also an important branch into which investments are being made. So probably there are several areas where already now, or in a couple of years, people can forecast and calculate in Excel sheets what added value could be created. Blockchain and other technologies, similar technologies that are not as evident today, but these technologies can substantially change the balance in the industry itself. For example, among different branches in the chain, different links in the chain. But I believe that these technologies will come in the next 5 years. Thank you. Mr. Tomas Orlickas, I would like to ask you the same. Well, it is obvious that farmers will strive for bigger profits because farming is a very important business, and acquiring equipment, process digitization, infrastructure update will be key directions. Profit is good, but it is important that it is balanced with environmental purposes and would ensure the provision of adequate levels of agricultural products. So these goals have to be balanced, and that is where public investments will be directed at the EU level. I would suggest that we all agree what we're really striving at, because we have prepared a lot of strategies in the agriculture sector and books as well. They're all important and they have to exist. We need them, but they have different spectrums of various different problems. So a book about everything, and then the plan for implementation is so large that we get lost in it. So maybe we should all agree that we identify one indicator that we'll be achieving, for example, increasing productivity per hectare. So let us raise this objective that in a certain amount of years we will supersede this average. We all just have to agree to identify an indicator and to draw up an action plan how we're going to achieve this. For example, we could agree that in Lithuania, not everything, but only strategic sectors will be supported, or strategic crops should be supported. Only in certain places in Lithuania where soil is of adequate quality, where there are suitable favorable climate conditions. Many other countries do this already. They instruct farmers what to grow and where and how, and only yes, of course, you can grow whatever you want, but the country selects a direction, and if you grow specific crops, you can get support. In this way, the country can thus secure the supply of key produce. In the future, it's going to be even more efficient. The number of people is growing, and countries have to be able to provide for themselves. Next, it also increases the export. And the power in these markets is also increasing. Another general agreement could be that Lithuania should strive that each farmer in Lithuania should use at least one tool of precise farming, be it free satellite data, drones, or something else that could improve the life of farmers. This would be a win for all, and the EU support could be used here. In any way, Lithuanian farmers are very dependent on this support. And this is a great tool to help farmers strive for more efficient farming. And this could help lead farmers into the better future. Because if we were to leave it for the farmers to decide how to proceed, well, they don't have time for this because they have to work all the time. And they have no time or energy to follow and go hand in hand with the newest developments. So it would be really great if somebody would come and help them. So this help from the public sector would really be welcome and has to be planned. And very briefly, Mr. Sigitas, the same question. Where all the key investments will be directed in the public and private capital? Colleagues have already said a lot. The investments have to be directed towards implementing our goals, short chains, traceability, and so on. So I believe that public investments should be focused on process management, data, digitization, data availability, and private investments should be directed towards precise farming, soil quality, short chains, sharing processes. These things are not a goal in itself. They provide added value to farmers and to the society at large.
And Mr. Giedrius, the same question goes to you. Very briefly, if you can. Well, public sector usually is focused on something that is not that does not pay back. So very briefly, I will make a joke. Maybe in the new prospect, we will need to have digital insects. So we need to solve who is going to maintain these insects. So we are generating technologies, but we don't know the consequences that need to be rectified. Well, these are public services that would need to be directed to that. Thank you very much for participation in this forum, and I would like to wish you all the best. Thank you very much for your insights.